Hey guys, it's Alex back with another Full Play podcast. And as I believe week 14 of the NFL has almost ended, we do have Seahawks and Vikings tonight. So we're going to do a slight recap and a look at the teams that may end up making the playoffs or may not, but really for next season just need to rebuild. And so we're going to start off with a team that, if you follow anything with football, it's not going to surprise you. The Carolina Panthers are on a big skid. Even despite them being second in the NFC West, they've lost their last 4 straight, including losses to the Lions, Buccaneers, and Browns. And you really have to question what happened. So we'll start Panthers-Steelers Thursday Night Football. The Panthers are coming off a nice 3-game winning streak and have a solid shot at the playoffs. Now, at this point, they were still behind the Saints, but they were close, and they were fighting for that division lead. And then the Steelers happened. Ben Roethlisberger throws for crazy amounts of yards, and the Panthers get killed. Now, you would say, oh, well, it's one loss, they can bounce back. But then the next week, they lose again to the Lions, who aren't a good team. The Lions, who pulled an upset on the Patriots, but at the end, the Panthers come back. But frankly, it's too little, too late. At the end of the third quarter, it was 13-7. 13-7. And then in the fourth quarter, they scored 12. The Carolina Panthers scored 12 points, but that's not enough. That's not enough. Something that they might be able to get in. Well, I'm sorry, but you're not, because you're going to lose. Because for some reason you bench Cam for a play, I believe, and give up 9 points in the fourth quarter to a Cleveland Brown team who frankly should not be doing that, to a team with some solid Pro Bowl defensive players. All right, let's see. Our annual Christian McCaffrey watch led the team in rushing like he should, but he really didn't have that big of a game, only 63 yards. And so now, the thing that concerns me is that Devin Funchess, since they traded away Kelvin Benjamin last year, Devin Funchess should be stepping up to the plate and catching for their team, giving Cam options. 0 yards, 0 catches, 0 touchdowns. You're the star wide receiver on the team. You have a quarterback. Greg Olsen's hurt. You have to step up. And he frankly hasn't. All right. So that's going to wrap up our Carolina one. And now, for those fans, I'm sorry. It's not a good year for you. If you are a Steelers fan, even though your record is really good, how do I put this nicely? Your team cannot keep themselves together. Le'Veon Bell left because he didn't want to play for the team anymore. Ben Roethlisberger is not playing that great. They're on a 3-game skid, and with the Patriots up next week, and then the Saints, they're losing those next 2. And then against the Bengals, I'm not entirely sure they win that either. All right, so we'll start on the skid in about the same place we started with Carolina. It's actually the game after. Or not the game after, 2 games after with the Broncos. So they're coming off a 20-16 win It's a 20-16 win in Jacksonville. So now you're in the Mile High City. Okay, so these stats are gonna sound weird. So Big Ben Roethlisberger, 41 for 56, 462 yards, a touchdown. Great, okay? Now, 2 picks. All right, that lowers where he should be. But then there's Chris Boswell, the kicker. The kicker is 1 for 1, 2 yards, and a touchdown. And then Antonio Brown, who didn't complete a pass, but he attempted one. What is Mike Tomlin? And Randy Fitchner, I believe? What are they thinking? They are throwing with a wide receiver. And Le'Veon Bell, if you go to that Bronco game, he's not leading the team in receiving. Juju Smith-Schuster had 189. Antonio Brown had 67. And so, with 67 receiving yards, what's happening? You're an all-star wide receiver, and you're letting a Juju Smith-Schuster, who's been doing really good this year, but he's not Antonio Brown, who I actually think if he completed this pass, it would have been the best part of his game. Because you haven't seen anything from him. You go next week, they lose by 3 to the Chargers. Big Ben, 29 for 45, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Not terrible. Antonio Brown bounces back from his last week's performance. Juju Smith-Schuster, not as much. Only passes for 49 yards. And this is the Antonio Brown we should be seeing. That's the Antonio Brown that should be getting their team somewhere. Now, the whole issue with this one, how I picture it, is this defense gave up 18 points. Now, I get it. The Chargers are a good team, and they're solid offensively, but you should not be giving them 18 points in a quarter. I mean, if you were to give up, let's say, 7, you would have blown them out. Even if you gave up 14, you would have won by 1. But 18 points to a mediocre, actually above average Chargers defense. But they outscored them by 11. Or if you're going to give that up defensively, then score it back offensively. Because if your offense is like that, there's no way. The second your defense makes a mistake, nothing's happening. All right, so now this previous week, yesterday, you have the Oakland Raiders. They lose 21-24 because Chris Boswell was had an up and down season this year. Couldn't hit a game-tying extra point to send it into overtime. But at the start of the third quarter, you were winning 14-10. Which, if you're a Steelers team with a nice offense, that's where you want to be. And then once again, Antonio Brown, 5 receptions, 7 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster, 130. Antonio Brown, I believe, doesn't want to be on the team anymore. So the Steelers, it's not really this playing issue. It's the fact that these players don't want to play for the team. You should come out every day to win for your team, regardless whether you like it or not. And if you can't do that, why are you playing in this league? I get it, you may not like it, but you kind of have to. Now I can talk about all these teams on the rise, and I'm not going to cover every struggling team. I'm going to call out a couple names and why I think they could be they're struggling. But there's going to be a surprising one that I'll explain later. So, another team that I think is struggling, Washington Redskins. After a couple games of a skid, and a 40-16 loss to the Giants, they're on a 4-game skid, and I believe they play the Jaguars, which they're probably going to lose because I don't know what's happened. If it's the receivers, if it's the chemistry, if it's really the quarterback issues with Alex Smith. I don't know what happened, but even if the Cowboys weren't as dynamic or dominant as they are, they're still not winning the NFC East. Another struggling team is going to be definitely, and this is going to be a surprising one, it's going to be, and they played last night in a good thriller, the Los Angeles Rams. And now a lot of you are going to come at me and criticize me for this. How can a 2-loss team be bad? How can they be losing? Well, if you look at and some people will go, well, look at their 2 losses. It's to the Saints, who have the same record as them, and the Bears, who are only now 3 games back, which seems like a lot. It's till the end of the season. But the way they played last night, Jared Goff throwing 4 picks, you can't come out every day, play like that, and expect to win. Todd Gurley, 28 yards. Top receiver, 61. The total yards in this game is under 300 yards. Which, if we go to the Bears, Mitch Trubisky threw for 110, which is less than Jared Goff, and 3 picks. But this wasn't an offensive game. This is what the NFL wants in these games. But their rushing was good. They had over 200 yards rushing. They had almost 200 yards rushing. And when you have that, you want to be a team that can win, and they deserved that win last night. The Rams have a nice couple of last games. They're against the Eagles, who, even if they rest their starters, they might not. Even if they don't rest their starters, they might not win that game. The Cardinals, they should cruise by, and the 49ers, they should cruise by. So, the Rams, they're going to have that first or second seed in the division. Although they do lose the tiebreaker with New England, which is important. Because if this Bears team beats whoever they're against, and the Rams take the second seed, you will see the matchup we saw yesterday again in the playoffs. All right, another last team struggling that I'm going to explain before I just give you a cold hard list of teams that are struggling. It's going to be the Patriots. The Patriots gave up a big pass to the Dolphins yesterday, and it's a couple of weird things to the Dolphins on that last play. They had all those flea flickers back to all these other people, but it's really Bill Belichick's fault. The Miami team is not a team with a nice... Oh, they do have Ryan Tannehill back. So, Ryan Tannehill is back. So, they have a nice team they should have beaten. The Patriots should have cruised this game. They're 9-4. A Patriots team with a solid Tom Brady will cruise over this team. Maybe don't discredit the defensive performance, and the Miami Dolphins offensive is nice. So figure you take away that last touchdown. So you take away 6 points because I guess they didn't go for the extra point. You get 28-33 now. Tom Brady in his prime puts you at not 33, more like a 44, 42-ish. That sort of range. They don't have any real eye-popping losses. But if they give up stupid plays on stupid play calls, it's really not worth it. Their other 3 losses... All right, I'll sum this up right here. Their losses are to bad teams that, to my guess, Bill Belichick underestimates. But with a blowout 11-point loss to Jacksonville, who isn't doing all that great this season, 16-point loss to Detroit, and a 24-point loss to the Titans. When the Patriots lose, they lose to bad teams and they lose hard. All right, a couple of teams that I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that are struggling. You have the Green Bay Packers, which wasn't a smart move to fire Coach Mike McCarthy. He's a good coach, and he would have brought them back. He just needed to draft those receivers for Aaron Rodgers in this year's draft. And that's really all the teams that are eye-poppingly not winning right now and should be. And so that's going to wrap up the video. This was Alex running off the NFL teams that need some help and are going to need this draft to elaborate and build on their team. All right, this was a Full Play Podcast. This was Alex. Tune in on Friday for me and Anthony. We'll be doing another podcast. Thank you and have a good night.